Welcome back to the channel. Tune in or ghost out. One of the biggest questions I had when I was deciding if I wanted to leave my job was, do I want this to be my career? I was working as an entry-level broadcast engineer, and once I made the decision to leave, my question turned into, what is a career? This has always been in the back of my head growing up, but I've never had to confront it much. But as I hunt down a job in the market, I do start to think of what path I want to take long term. When I think of a career, I think of longevity, structure, purpose, something that I would want to do for a long period of time. But as I apply and look at the jobs around me, everybody just wants portions of my time and not anything that offers security. The main reason a lot of us want a job, at least in America, is for the healthcare. That's a huge driving factor for me. But as I look around, everything is either gig or contract work, meaning you're expected to cover your own taxes, healthcare, and any expenses that might arise. While your checks might look bigger because nothing is taken out of them, at the end of the day, you're spending way more just to cover the basic costs that a regular full-time job would cover. As people continue to shop online, people with brick and mortar stores have to find ways to stay open, and that means getting creative. A lot of people have turned to scheduling on the fly. These tracking softwares will let the companies know when their most business happens. Companies will adjust their work hours based off that. While this optimizes and makes the most money for the brick and mortars, the worker on the other hand feels shorted each time. This intense optimization of business hours for profit leads to workers who are not mad about being underpaid, but rather underworked. Instead of seeing an average 40-hour week, you're more so looking at maybe 30 to 35 weeks at max, keeping workers from benefits or any real monetary gain. Sadly, this trend is also true for gig work like DoorDash and Uber. While the companies don't necessarily choose when you can work, they incentivize you to work when it's busy and kind of make you not want to work when it's not. Everybody knows if you don't work in peak hours, you just make less money overall. But the competition in peak hours leads you to maybe not make amazing money on certain days. For you, DoorDash or Uber might be a side hustle, but for somebody else, it might be their full-time job and they know how to work it better than you do. From my short experience with DoorDash, one of the first things I noticed in my few deliveries was how aggressive the timing of everything was. It was all spaced out in windows and areas. If you weren't in those areas at those times, you probably weren't going to make more than $10 in that hour. If you did make it into the hot zone areas, then you were fighting for orders while they were still good paying. It kind of felt like a race to the bottom. The really big orders would be taken within seconds, and the average ones you'd be able to snag. But even on some of my best days, I felt like I was wasting more money than I was making. When you factor in the cost of gas, tires, insurance, and the added risk of being on the road for so long, these delivery and gig apps seem not so worth it.
Sponge? It's okay. Sponge?
One of the three horsemen of the apocalypse for the job market would have to be the rise in contract work. Contract work can be very lucrative in the trade or military sectors, but for a lot of other sectors in the job field, they are very toxic. In my opinion, it's like an internship that just pays you a little bit more. I've only ever worked one contract position in my life, but when I was there, I felt like a second-rate employee and felt like an outsider in the company that hired me. The contract ran out in 4 months, and after that, I was left with no job and no connections. It's weird. They view contractors as like less than employees. They know you're not going to be around for a long time, but they always dangle the carrot that is a potential job. A lot of my friends have worked contract positions, especially in the tech sector, and it usually goes the same way. You start the job, you have a great tour and first initial day, and after that, they treat you like the water boy. I can't really blame them. If you know someone's not going to be around in 4 months, then why would you really spend all the time teaching them the ins and outs? This weird power dynamic leaves workers struggling to find opportunities to make these positions long term, which not only makes it feel like a waste of time, kind of is a waste of time. The runaround of looking for recruiters, having to schedule around their time, and feeling like you have no real support once you start the job leaves you wondering if it's a better idea to keep looking in the job field for something full time rather than take a pause to take on the contract. For many people, money's tight right? And you gotta take what you can get. But a rising trend in contract jobs has been to underpay. Many people say the structure of gig work is influencing the full-time marketplace, and companies are seeing it's much easier to pay you for 20 hours rather than 40. While one of the added benefits of contract work is the flexibility and freedom you have and earning potential. People are able to do high-paying contracts back to back versus a structured salary. But when you break the numbers down, contractors lose out in a lot of ways. They pay higher taxes because they see more upfront cash, and I mean a lot more taxes. On top of more taxes, healthcare is through the roof. Since you are not employed through the company, usually it's through a recruiter business of some sort, you are left to pay for your own insurance. And in some wild situations, contractors don't even qualify for government insurance. Being a contractor is an uphill battle, and I only really recommend it if you're doing it for military purposes. In the military, contractors can make an insane amount of money and travel the world. But for a lot of other sectors, I would steer clear if you want to keep your sanity. If it's the only thing you would find, don't let me stop you, but I would highly suggest looking for a full-time position. You ever notice how when you ask someone what they do for a living, the answer barely means anything anymore? Like 10 years ago, if somebody said, I'm an accountant or I'm an engineer, you kind of knew what their life looked like. Now, somebody could say, I work in marketing, but half the job is fighting an algorithm that changes every 2 weeks, and the other half is worrying if AI is going to make them irrelevant. Careers don't feel like careers anymore. They feel like short-term gigs with fancier titles. You might get benefits, you might get stability, but in the back of your mind, there's always a little voice asking, how long until this job doesn't matter anymore? And that's the reality. It's not just the so-called low-skill jobs getting wiped out. Automation is creeping into everything. Writing, design, customer service, even the law and the healthcare field. Which means, for our generation, the idea of one stable career you ride out until retirement just doesn't exist. Instead, it's constant adapting and reinventing yourself every few years. This constant journey of discovery for some people can feel freeing, but for me, sometimes it's frustrating. We're forced to think beyond the 9 to 5, to build skills, projects, even side hustles that give us leverage. The old system of climbing the corporate ladder is crumbling, and we're being handed the pieces and told, good luck and build something. Whether we like it or not, that's probably the future most of us are going to be caught up in. While I'm very pro building a skill, starting projects, and pursuing other avenues of revenue, I'd be lying if I said it had no drawbacks. This constant thinking on your feet and having no set schedule makes it harder to build and maintain relationships and put your self-confidence in a limbo every single day. When you have a good payday or land a contract, your emotions are riding off a high, but when you go extended periods without work, you start feeling like the worst person alive. Careers back then at the forefront offered security. For many people, that was the main factor when choosing their job field. But it seems like the theme for our generation from birth to adulthood is insecurity. In an ever-changing world, nothing feels sacred. And with everything in our life being monetized and broken up into payment systems, it's sad to see our careers doing the same thing. But I don't know, maybe the AI will take over and we'll just be getting government checks. If you agreed with anything you heard here today or disagreed, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on careers in general. Will the job market and careers rebound, or are we cooked and AI is just going to take them all? If you haven't liked the video, please go ahead and like the video. And a subscription does more for me than you could ever know. With that being said, thank you for tuning in. Till next time.
Transmission complete. Signal terminating. This is Ghostthread, signing off.